Welcome to Health Coach for Women. Intentional living for more happiness and fulfillment in your everyday life with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. Join Marsha as she shares her own personal wellness journey, as well as stories from our guests that will enlighten and inspire you to move towards better health and happiness. Now, here's your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker.
Okay, so I have my guest, Tameeka Williamson, who is an author and mother of 5. And today she's going to share with us her journey on how she learned to forgive and how she went from broken to limitless. Tameeka, are you there?
I'm here.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today on this platform here at Health Coach for Women podcast. Now, can you tell me, how was it for you growing up?
Growing up, I would say for me, it was a little different than my siblings. We grew up together, but I don't think, like for me personally, I'll just say for me, I was a little bit more sensitive than they were, even though people assume that I was the tougher one. I was really sensitive. Like I would cry if somebody corrected me. But as I grew, I wouldn't cry like in front of people because I thought that was weak. So I cried a lot in the shower. Okay. I felt like I cried all the time. Right. I mean, of course I had people that I knew loved me. Mm-hmm. Of course, my grandmother and my father that raised me. Right. But when I felt like I was so hurt that I didn't appreciate them at the time.
Okay. And hurt by what?
Hurt by not feeling like my mother loved me because she wasn't there, because she was, she was on drugs and stuff like that. So with her not being there, that really made me look at everybody else in a different way.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about now, about the book without giving it all away. Tell us a little bit about the book, because your story, your mom, there is a part in there about your mom that you talk about that, as well as other people. Right, but just give us an overview, a little overview about it, and without giving all the details away.
Okay, well, it's based on my life, of course, and me dealing with people I felt like that had hurt me throughout my life, starting with my childhood, and I felt like the root of all of that hurt was from my mother not being there, and pretty much I felt like she abandoned us, and because she did choose drugs over us. And I understand, now that it's an addiction and all of that kind of stuff. But at that time, I didn't think about any of that. It was just like, my mom's not there and that's who I want. And it just seemed unnatural to not live with my mother. So it's about forgiving her, forgiving other people that did stuff to me throughout the years. It's also about me forgiving myself for stuff that I've done. Right. And of course, definitely God forgiving me, which allowed me to be able to forgive everybody.
Right. And what would you say, and that's important too, because I like the way that you noticed that, at that time, you were just a kid at that time, but you understand that she had an addiction, right? Just as my father did. When I was younger, with alcohol, gambling and alcohol. And I felt the same way as you. I felt abandoned by my dad. I felt the same way. So I can definitely relate with you on that story. And then also the part when you talked about having, pretending to be tough on the outside, and on the inside that you're really hurting, So I can definitely relate to you on that one. So what would you say? Would you say that you you held any past grudges among the people that you felt hurt you? Did you hold any grudges, and how long did you hold those grudges? And when did you finally decided to just release it?
I definitely held grudges until from that point on, and for like my life until I think it was 2005. Until about 2005, I was about 25 or 26.
What was that?
And I started going to church. I gave my life to Christ. And after I realized that God forgave me for all the things that I've not only done to other people, but all of the things that I did against him. And I realized everything I did was forgiven. So all was forgiven for me. So I was like, wow, if all was forgiven for me, then all should be forgiven for everybody. So I started to say, I need to let this stuff go. And I just wanted to change my life as far as not being upset for what would seem like no reason, but it's just bitterness building up on the inside where you just seem like you're a miserable person. And I felt miserable. I started drinking a lot. I started smoking. So I was trying to use those things to cope with the hurt and the pain instead of dealing with it. So when I started going to church, that all changed for me.
Great. Yeah. And everybody's journey is different for sure. And so one of the things that I wanted to ask you as well, I know, I read the book already, but for those who haven't read the book, you're currently married now, but you were previously married before. What life lessons did you learn from your first marriage?
Oh, the first time, let's see. I would definitely say I learned not to settle.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I learned not to settle because I knew and he knew that we weren't supposed to be together.
Wow.
But we had been together for so long, and we felt like I know for me, let me just say me.
Right.
I know for me, I was just I felt like I was being loyal to him because we had been together for so long, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. Like after all this time, you should get married and have children and all that kind of stuff. But I knew that's not who I wanted to be. We didn't have the same ideas of what a marriage was. We definitely didn't have a relationship with God. So, and I know that for me is really big.
Right.
And we didn't have any of that. We didn't have communication. We didn't have understanding. We didn't have anything. But all we had were all those years. We just had, we've been together for this long. We've known each other this long. I mean, I've known him since I was in third grade.
Right.
So you take that and you think, oh, this is like a fairy tale, but it turned out to be a nightmare. So I learned not to settle.
Right.
I learned that, I learned that communication and being on the same page as far as what you want and see for your future and what the other person sees for their future, they have to line up. And you have to be willing to assist and help them, and they should be willing to do the same for whatever it is that you want to do.
Right. Oh, definitely. I agree with you 100% with that. Communication is the key in every relationship, even not just with your mate, your spouse, your husband, whatever, but, with family members, with your coworkers,
right?
With your friends, it is so important because things can get misconstrued. And it's just like when you're texting, you may say something one way, but the person may interpret it another way, just from a text message. So communication is very important. And it's the foundation. It's one of the foundations, in a relationship is communication. So, so that's definitely important. And so my next question that I want to ask you is, well, how would you say this new marriage of yours is better? And not in comparison, but how is it better in a part of what you bring to the table as well as your spouse? What would you say are the elements to it making it to be a good relationship?
So the first thing I definitely would say is both of us having a relationship with God, and being able to communicate what it is I want, what it is he wants. And I think respecting each other's growth is very important, because I feel like in marriages or relationships in general, you go through stages, and that's why a lot of people say, well, we grew apart, but I like to think of it like, okay, if I feel like we're growing in different directions, let's come back to the table and discuss it. Like, okay, so what do you want to do now for the next 5 years or in your future? And what do you want to do? And I think if you just communicate that respectfully and allow people to change their mind about some of the things they want to do for their future.
Right.
I think like for right now, our children have gotten to a point where now they're all in school or some are out of school. So for me, I feel like I'm growing and changing. Like I want to explore new things and do new things. And not that at the time I couldn't do it before, but it wasn't the time to do it before. Because for me, it was really important to raise my children and not focus on having to work. I wanted to just focus on being a parent and focus on being a wife. And going to church, stuff like that. But mainly just to be a mother. So now that we're in a new stage of our relationship, we're working out some things. So instead of just always getting upset about the transformation or the steps to the new stage, I think you have to do stuff like counseling and conversations again about, okay, this is what I expect. This is what I want to do. And I think when people don't communicate that, that's when people start growing apart. And you just have to be mindful of those stages and those situations.
Definitely.
Or you'll be on marriage number 4 and 5.
Definitely. And see, and that is a thing too, that, as we get older, we mature and we grow. You're never staying the same. You're always growing and learning, right? And the way you may have thought at 25 may not be the way you think at 30. And the way you think at 30, when you turn 40 or 50, like myself, you don't think the way you thought at 30 and 40, because you're constantly elevating in your spirituality, in your growth. You're evolving as a person. So that is so important, that to know and keeping that communication open to make sure that you guys are still on the same page. And it's okay if your goals or whatever you're striving for, whatever it is that you want to do, change, right? But it's okay as long as you are still together in an alignment with one common goal. I think that strengthens the relationship, and it also allow you to be free to be who you are, right? So what you want as well as the other person. So yeah, that is definitely awesome. So my next question for you is, what would you say to people who are still holding on to the past from a bad relationship, or not having a good relationship with their parents, or just holding on to things of the past, or whatever? It could be something that they've not forgiven themselves, or maybe past traumas of rape, molestation. People have a hard time dealing with that. And now during the time that we're in, all those things are probably resurfacing, right? Because we know that depression, right? All those things from a trauma resurfaces back again because it was never dealt with in the first place. So what would you tell those people, those listeners out there? How would you help them to learn how to forgive? What would you tell them?
The first thing I would say would be to not relive it mentally, not to replay it in your mind, and definitely not to continue to talk about it unless you're coming from a place of I've forgiven this situation and I'm talking about it to help people. Because if you're not healed from that hurt, you talking about it and you keep reliving it in your mind is going to make it grow stronger, and your anger, your rage, your bitterness, all of that is going to grow. And that's not really what you want to grow. So to renew your mind will be the first thing to do to just stop that thought as soon as it comes. Like, oh, this person did that. Stop. You know what? I forgive them.
Right.
And then you would have to think of what are you going to put in place of that memory that you keep replaying of them. You could say something like what I just said, like, I forgive that person for this situation. Or you could do something else, whatever works for you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you might need to get some counseling for it, right? Because a lot of times we try to self-medicate or do things on our own, but as you can tell, it's not working. Right. So I would say get some help on it, right. Read up on it, talk to somebody that you respect and that you know will give you good information that you're going to do. But you ultimately have to be ready to relive it in a safe environment where now you can get some answers and some clarity. So now you can get to the point where you're like, oh, I have forgiven this person, or I do forgive this person. And it's not an instant like, okay, I talked about it, now I'm over it. Because it's a process sometimes. A lot of times it is. You have to address it, remember what happened, how it made you feel. And if you have the opportunity to speak to the person that did do these things to you, and if you're open to it and they're open to it, have that conversation. Right. And go into the conversation not expecting an apology, though.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head with that one. You sure did.
Yeah, because that's what we do. We like, oh, well, you did this and you did that. And they sometimes people have a totally different experience than you did about that same situation. And they might have felt like, well, I did that because you did this. And you might have forgotten you did something. So I always like to say, go into it just saying how it made you feel and expressing how that affected you and what you thought they meant, and allowing them to know that I want to get over this. And if you didn't mean this, or if you did mean this, I'm still going to forgive you for this and move on. And moving on doesn't mean you have to become friends. It doesn't mean you have to be enemies after this or not speak to them anymore. It just depends on the situation. So I think it's great if you can have the conversation. If not, you can always write a letter. It's 2020. You can do a video, and you don't even have to give it to them. You can just do it for yourself. It'll be nice and therapeutic. You get it all out, and then you see what
taking the words out of my mouth.
You just see everything that. You just get everything out, and it might trigger more stuff, and you might remember more stuff. So it might not just be one video. You might have to do a series of videos and just get it all out. So once you start getting that hurt out, you can start doing stuff to walk towards forgiveness, like, maybe getting them a gift, or maybe just start saying hello to them, or maybe praying for them. Whatever it is to be the next step in your process of forgiveness.
Right. That is so well said. And I couldn't agree with you more on that. And the burden, when you actually forgive, there's this weight. I don't know if you felt that, but there's this something that's just lifted off you, and you feel so much lighter. And not only you feel lighter, don't you feel like this burst of love? Like this burst of love just comes to you, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I should have done it sooner. Like, it's just it's a beautiful thing, and people don't understand it unless you actually do it. You don't really understand how it feels, what it does for you. It's like a weight lifted off your shoulder. Right. It opens your heart to receive. It opens your heart to receive better relationships, right? To receive all the goodness that God has in store for you. So it's so important. And some people may not be religious or anything like that, but it still will do the same thing. Right. It will give you that same thing of you opening up your heart, and that burden is those layers are coming off. Those layers are just peeling off, and it just makes you feel so much lighter. And what about for the people who have a hard time forgiving themselves? You know, what about those people, you know, who have a hard time forgiving themselves for maybe the bad choices that they've made for themselves? You know, what would you tell those people?
I would start with the same thing, not reliving it, not replaying it. Say, like for me, I know it. I had to say, you know what? Hey, I did this. Let's just say, okay, I married this guy. Right. I'm not going to stay married to that guy, especially if I'm in an abusive relationship. Mm-hmm. So I say, you know what? I made a mistake by staying in this relationship that was abusive for so long. So you know what? I had to say, you have to make a new decision today. Like, you have to get up and do something different. Stop living in pity, self-pity, and beating yourself up and wondering why other people are beating you up, because you're doing it to yourself. Yeah. So I have to tell myself, I love you. And I have to just look in the mirror and keep telling myself, Tameeka, I love you. I love you. You're beautiful. You're this, you're that. I had to get some confidence because I didn't have that. I had to get confidence and strength and say, you know what? I'm going to do something different because I want something different. So I stopped abusing myself. And then I made a new decision that would affect my future. So one thing is I left. You know, it was an abusive relationship. So, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. So I need to leave. So I left. And I left not thinking, oh, I'm going to have this great, beautiful life because I left him. Because sometimes you could leave one situation and it'll get worse before it gets better. So I didn't expect anything super grand. I just knew that this is where I need to leave from. Right. And whatever I get into, I need to make sure that I need to make sure that I'm okay mentally. Because if I wasn't okay mentally, then no matter where I go, I was going to be back in the same situation, the same type of relationship. So I would say just to stop replaying it, stop beating yourself up, allow yourself to be forgiven. Say, hey, I forgive you, and now I'm going to make a better decision. And sometimes we don't know what a better decision is. Right. So we do need to, like I said earlier, you need to seek some counsel, get some advice. Right. You know, allow yourself to get online and grow and listen to some motivational speeches or something that's going to change the way you think. So then you can start saying, okay, I did make a mistake, and now I know what I could have done better. So you really have to look within yourself and accept that you did make this mistake, and now you've grown. Right. And now you can make a better decision, especially if you have children. Right. Because they're watching you. And if you do that to yourself, then they're going to train themselves to do the same thing. And then you're going to be living in a cycle of bad decisions, or I want to get better, but you're not doing anything to get better, which is insanity. You keep trying to do the same thing, getting a different result. It's not going to happen.
It's just not going to work. Exactly. And then you talk about being an example, you know, for your children, because they model what they see, right?
Right.
And that's how those pathologies get repeated from down the line, right? Because they saw it, they experienced, they went through it. And so if they haven't experienced what the proper thing is, or what the I would say the correct way to maybe go about a situation, if all they knew was abuse and violence, then that's what they're only going to what they see. They're going to model that when they have their own children. Now, not in every case, right?
Right.
Not in every case, but in some cases, in many cases, that is the pathology of this repeated patterns going down from generation to generation. So you have to break the cycle. You have to break that. And that's why it's so important to be able to forgive and to move forward, not expecting anything back. And being okay with that, And if you need help, there are resources out there, right? There are resources out there, such as the crisistextline.org, where I have that also in my profile, where you can go there, click on that, go visit crisistextline.org. If you need someone to talk to, it's not over the phone, it's just through text, right? So there are different resources out there. If a person needs to use those resources, that's what it's there for. That is what it's there for, to help you. So just to wrap up, Tameeka, where can we get this book? How can we get it? And if you have any other final thoughts for us at this time.
You can get it on Amazon if you Google All Is Forgiven When Rooted in Love. It's on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com. You can go to my Instagram page or my Facebook page, which is Tameeka Williamson. You can DM me. Mm-hmm. What else? If you Google it, it'll pull up other resources other than that. But you can get it directly from me on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Which is, my Twitter handle is all is forgiven. All is forgiven. All is the number 4 forgiven.
Okay, great. And are there any other final thoughts? And of course, we'll have all of that information provided to be able to reach Tameeka and her resources for the book. Are there any other final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience at this time?
Final thoughts, I would say forgiveness is, for me, I believe forgiveness is very important to, if you're the type of person that says you want to do bigger and better things, forgiveness is going to be key. And to get to the root of forgiveness, a lot of times it's going to be in your childhood.
Right.
So I would say it's going to be hard. And sometimes people think that, I don't remember this, or I don't remember that. But like right now with this quarantine time, that's why depression is at an all-time high.
Right.
Because you're able to sit, and now you can reflect and go inward and think about this and that. And after you've done all of that, like we talked about, you're going to need to have somebody guide you through all of that stuff so you can get on the path to forgiveness. And let's see, something else I was going to say about forgiveness. It's rooted in your child. It was something else I was going to say. I can't remember now, but I just think it's really important, and it's something that we all have to continue to do. It's not like I forgive this person, because throughout your life, people are still going to do stuff to you. So forgiveness is an ongoing thing. Forgiveness is not just, I forgive this person, I forgive that person, because there's going to be another person that's going to do something to you that you felt like they shouldn't have done or said. So that was the other thing I want to say, that forgiveness is ongoing. It's a continual thing. Like you have to, it's not just something of the past. It's going to be for your future too. So just, if you set that in your mind, like, I'm going to forgive everybody no matter what. So when the situation comes, it's going to be easier because you'll be a step ahead.
Right.
Now you're going to have that in your thoughts and say, you know what? I know how it feels to be bitter and angry and upset. So now I know what I know what I have to do. So it's like, you just got to renew your mind all the time.
Right. You do. Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Tameeka, for joining me on this podcast and being a part of this show. I thank you so much. And that will be all. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you. Congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Health Coach for Women with your host, Marsha Roopchand-Walker. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.